I'd like to welcome everybody here to the 50th reunion dinner. Looking forward to another great night, and I want to say this is a great turnout. The most I think we've ever had for a 50th reunion, and I'd like to thank Paul Morose in particular and the rest of the committee. Paul reached out to me and asked me after homecoming last year if he could be the 50th reunion host, and usually I have to beg people to be the host. So I was really excited that he wanted to do that and proactively asked me about that, and he's been wonderful to work with. The committee has done an excellent job, and I'm sure he'll talk a little bit more about them when he has a chance, but I want to thank them for the work that they've done. If you don't know who I am, my name is Kirk Kettinger, class of 92, and I am the Director of Alumni and External Relations here at Roberts Wesleyan College and Northeastern Seminary. It was great to be with many of you this morning at our Yesteryears event at Parmenter Chapel, and that was a great kickoff to the day, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this evening and also the concert later tonight at 7:30. But again, I just want to welcome you here for a time of fellowship, good food, friends, and reminiscing. There is going to be a little bit of a program after we eat, and Paul is going to be in charge of that. But we're just excited that you're here and for all that you represent in terms of the heritage and the tradition and the history of Roberts Wesleyan College. And it's so good to meet you in person and hear your stories. Some of the best stories I've learned about Roberts Wesleyan College have come from the 50th dinner. So don't let me down. Give me some good stuff for the future, and I look forward to hearing your conversation. But as we begin, I'm going to ask Jason Pulver to come and just give a few comments about how much we appreciate the way that you support us here at Roberts Wesleyan College, and especially support our students through giving. So I'll turn it over to Jason.
Congratulations on your 50th class reunion. It's pretty exciting that you guys are all here. I graduated in 2018, so technically it's my first reunion, so I have a long way to go to catch up to you guys. But it's great seeing you guys all here, knowing the legacy and impact that you guys left here at Roberts 50 years ago. I'm sure it must be pretty nostalgic, returning to campus, reminiscing about all the late night studying, Bible studies, and all of the other wonderful memories that you guys had at your time at Roberts. And I'm sure campus is much different than it was 50 years ago. I'm not sure how many of you have been to campus lately, but obviously we have a couple new buildings. We have the new Science Center, and then we have the new Golisano Community Engagement Center coming up on the next few years, so that's really exciting. And then one other exciting way to make a lasting impact for our current students at Roberts is through the reunion class giving competition. And so each of the 5-year class reunions come together to give to Roberts. And that's just a really cool way where you guys can give back to the current students. And the winning class actually gets the center path on campus named after you guys. So it'd be like class of 1969. But that can only happen if you guys get in first place. And right now you guys are in second place. So I will be over at the table right where you guys checked in. And I hope you guys will be able to donate, and hopefully you guys will be in first place. So thank you guys. I appreciate you guys all being here.
I think Jason tells every class they're in second place, so I'm not sure about that. Thank you, Jason. We're privileged to have our president, Dr. Dina Porterfield, with us here this evening, and she's going to bring words of welcome, and then we have a special ceremony.
Well, it is great to see everybody. You know, I know that I am not a graduate of Roberts Wesleyan College, but I have a graduate of Roberts Wesleyan College from 2018, and she will marry a graduate of 2017 this next Sunday. So we consider ourselves a true Roberts family. And just to top it off, he's a nurse, which I've met a few nurses in the room, right? So we have a lot of pride going for that program. It is wonderful to be with you to celebrate your 50th reunion. I know some of you have not been on campus for 50 years, and so there are new buildings. There are buildings that are no longer here. There are buildings that are here, but they look completely different in the inside. For example, Carpenter Hall is completely different on the inside. And we're talking about a new building that's going to come. And I thought I would say to this class, because we're facing this window, the new building goes right across the street, right there. So people have been asking me, and I thought I would let you know. You are dear members of our Roberts community, and as I have traveled and met some of you, and will meet more of you this weekend, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being back on campus and bringing an energy today that our current students need to see, and they need to hear your stories. So I look forward to hearing what you share and what Kirk records, and make sure that we have more of. A couple of years ago, we decided to begin a new tradition. And this is one that we will continue for the years to come. And it symbolizes the importance of how we feel you all represent us through the 50th year medallion. The medallion symbolizes not only the number of years since you graduated, which maybe some of you don't want to claim, I've heard that as well. And by the way, I think it's the largest because, you know, you're younger. How's that, right? You're a younger group, so there's more of you here. But it also represents the deep and rich legacy and heritage of Roberts Wesleyan College. On one side of the medallion that we're going to present is the motto, Ora et Labora, and you know that. And on the other side is our new logo that we launched in 2016, our 150th year, connecting our past with our future and where we're headed. We will be presenting this medallion annually during homecoming and to our alumni celebrating their 50th year reunion. And our hope is that you will wear it throughout the weekend if you're here. And you will see other prior recipients of the medallion wearing theirs as they return. And I just encourage you to do that, because for our students to see this medallion around your neck with this beautiful red ribbon, it allows them to say, wow, there is somebody that is representing the legacy and history of this college. What we're going to do is Kirk is going to come and he's going to announce your name. Let me just pull this out here. And you're going to come forward. And here's what we're going to do, because we found that this is really kind of a photographic moment. And so some of you might want that. I know, everybody's like, oh, okay. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask you to come up, and I'm gonna ask you to stand basically where Kirk is right now. And we're gonna stand, and I'm gonna put the medallion on you this way, so everybody can see, right? And then you can return back to your seat. After that, we're going to go out after everyone's received their medallion, and we're going to take our class picture and with our medallions and outside in the beautiful weather. So thank you again for coming back. It is a wonderful, wonderful weekend. We're very excited to have you here. We're excited to share with you all that is happening on campus, and we're excited to hear the stories from your time at Roberts that was transformational and led you to where you are today. So thank you. Kirk is going to come.
Daniel Beach, please come forward.
Come on, pigs.
Jane Bowden.
Jane Vanek. That's what you know.
Sylvia Brown. Linda Cannon.
I know, it's like graduation.
Thank you. So
Darwin Chapman.
this in your Kentucky shirt, so I
Yes.
wasn't recognizing you.
Thank you so much.
Evelyn Chapman.
Used to wearing heels. Oh, thank you, yeah.
David Colburn. Rebecca Crawford.
Here's my cheerer.
Cheering you all the way. Thank you.
William Crawford. Paul Kroll. Sharon Freed. Dorothy Grant. Carolee Hamilton. Jerry Helmsby. Marcia Hockenberry. Phyllis Howell. Byron Humphrey.
You're right here. Absolutely. Anything anybody wants to do there. I'm free.
Richard Jacoby. Shirley Kraus. Judy Lyon. Paul Morose. Carol Newman. Kurt Rutzmoser.
The great thing about this is you're gonna know who's in the room,
Yeah.
right?
Dave Scribner. Richard Simhoff.
I know who the comedians were now in the class.
Bob Singleton. Do you want to go?
You don't need shoes. Come on up. Oh, yeah. Oh, let me go.
I want you to know, I gave Kirk his wife.
In Sprague Hall, I asked him if it was okay if I asked Michelle to marry me, so that is true. And he was on the board of trustees, so I was taking a risk.
Can I tell you what he said? He said, well, I know what I said to him. I said, I really love my daughter. And he looked up at me and he said, I really love her too.
There you go.
Love you guys. Ron Siddig. Brad Smith. Barbara Schnitzler. I was doing so well up until then. I apologize, Barb. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. I still get the medallion no matter what my name
That's
is,
right.
right? Good. Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you.
Sarah Uva. Sarah? Sarah's not, okay. Joyce Valone. See Joyce? There's Joyce. Ken Lynn Venable. Dominic White.
That's a nice ring. They gave you walking.
Gary Wood. Nancy Wood.
Short, so you don't have to raise it.
Before we applaud for the class, did I miss anyone by any chance?
Oh,
All right. Yes, come on up, please. I can't read your name tag from here. Oh, yes, the Carries. June Carey. And we have Steve Savacool. Gary. And Gary Onley, all the way from Texas. Let's give the class of 69 a hand. We're going to go out, but before we do, I'm going to pray for dinner. Then we're going to go out and have just the graduates for a photo. Everyone else can stay in here and start eating dinner, but we'll pray, and then we'll head out for the photo. Yeah, right. It pays to not be a graduate. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day, for the sunshine, for this campus and what it means to each of us, and for the people that make up Roberts Wesleyan College. I want to especially thank you for the class of 1969 and all the wonderful ways that they've impacted our institution and the ways that they've gone out and lived out their faith in their work and in their communities. Just help us to have a wonderful night of reflection and of fellowship and of friendship, and we just thank you for this food and for Mets and for all the people involved in making this weekend possible. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Swift.
Real swift, huh?
Charlie, that's great.
Thank you,
Wear it
Dana.
with pride.
Thank you.
Please feel free to continue eating, and just so you know, there are restrooms just outside the room in the back, but we're going to go ahead and begin our program. We want to stay on schedule so that those of you who are planning on going to the concert at 7:30 can do that. And we're going to begin with a presentation to remember the classmates who passed on. And so this presentation will be a tribute to your classmates who've passed away. It's an in memoriam presentation.
Okay, as we continue our program, I want to just make a couple of quick announcements because I know some of you will be leaving for the musical. And first of all, this entire program is videotaped. And the reason it's videotaped is so that in about a week or so, on the college website, on the YouTube channel, they are going to make it available for all of our classmates who couldn't be here today. So it should be very nice. And so wave, everybody wave. We wish you were here. And so that's going to be available, and you just need to go to the college website and find it. Okay, I would also like to thank and I'd like to recognize the reunion committee. Barb Snitchler, would you stand? Dave Scribner, Carol Smith Newman. They were instrumental in helping us make decisions as what to do. Now, as you know, we're going to be pressed for time, so we're going to need to make sure that we're out of here by about a little after 7. Okay, so we're going to have to hustle along here. And the last announcement I want to make here is that maps and for our location, to our house, are on the memorabilia table. There's also directions there. The time will be between 4:30 and 7:30. Okay, so we will look forward to seeing you there. The addresses are there. So if you have a GPS, you can put it in there. It's probably the easiest way, but if you don't have a GPS system, you can use the map. We're going to continue now with our first presenter, which is Carol Lee Hamilton.
Well, I was thinking that I didn't want to have to come after Brad, but that was a very touching part of our program that we just experienced, and it reminds us that our lives are measured, and God has given us opportunities and purposes, and this needs to go the right direction for me. Just a moment. In our freshman year in February 1966, the all-college banquet highlighted Paul Harvey, and that kind of gave me the idea to talk about the rest of the story. Well, there's a rest of the story for me personally because that was my first date with Dave. And the rest of the story is we just celebrated 50 years of marriage. But the rest of the story is extremely important to all of us and the connections that we have as a result of the time spent here at Roberts Wesleyan. Now, I hope I don't slip for saying something for another location where I worked for 25 years. That's another college. So, over 150 of us gathered in early September 1966 to roam the halls, the walks, the fields of RWC, many of us for the first time. The places became familiar, but the faces of classmates and roommates and faculty and staff members became even more memorable. I remember I didn't really want to tell anybody my last name in Carpenter Hall, AKA Crap Hall. My last name, I didn't want to say my last name because I didn't want people to find out that my dad was the president. That would happen soon enough. All the girls recall 11 o'clock curfew and 12 o'clock lights out. How equitable was that? I don't think the guys had a curfew. Is it really possible the staff thought that the guys wouldn't cause trouble if the girls were in? I don't think so. Where that thinking came from. After starting classes donating freshman beanies, do you remember? Anybody still have their beanie? How about that? Okay. Fortunately, you weren't asked to bring that here. We enjoyed our first break for retreat at Laterno Camp. Little did we know our freshman class would try to outmuscle the upperclassmen. The tug of war was big stuff. Remember red-faced, pumped up Rob, Paul, Kurt, Gary, Paul, Ken, Dan, Darwin, and the rest of all intent on proving their manhood. Then the skit night. Who wanted to be vulnerable and laughed at? Everyone. Back on campus, more serious study followed, as well as sports practices, music concerts, Christian World Action conferences, float building, banquet planning, clubs, intramural games, bowl sessions, and the cultural life activities. Every day, Carpaul girls got a whiff of savory or not so tempting smells from the dining hall. At least there was a built-in entertainment around the gym pit line as we waited for dinner. And I had someone remind me today about how nice it was to go in, was it Friday night or Sunday, that we would have kind of a family dinner. And that was really nice. But, you know, they used to talk about people gaining the freshman 15, but many of us who lived in Carpaul didn't do that because it didn't seem all that good to us. But you could not forget the Jell-O. Ida Hughes, guardian of the dessert table. Who remembers if Roy was the head cook or if he had another job? Anybody remember?
He was the head cook.
He was, yeah, okay. How many of you worked in the kitchen? And okay. Faculty. Well, one faculty member was here when we arrived and is still at Roberts, Miss Elvira Bittner, and became Mrs. Berry. Reputations and rumors were a part of our stories. Who remembers best Prof. Traber going down rabbit holes? And the right-wing faculty member who was so far right, she accused Dr. Adams of being a liberal. And Brad Smith of being a communist. Oh my. The Beesons, bless you, girlie, and the Updike sleepy time afternoon lectures all made their impressions, along with Professors O'Brien, Kaufman, Anderson, Robbins, Logan. How we loved Prof. McGill's excited fast pace, Decker's wise and challenging classes, and George Klein's bringing of Moby Dick to life. My husband pointed out that I'm not saying George Klein was Moby Dick. He brought Moby Dick to life. How we enjoyed the youthful profs and those who challenged us to think critically, like Dr. Ahern. Our much-loved advisors, the Rogers, hosted parties and receptions for us at their home. Mrs. Rogers, Editha, by the way, lives near us. We just attended her 90th birthday. Cox Hall housed music courses and groups with James Stewart, the Goitas, Dale Schupfer. I can remember early morning calculus with Paul and Carol and Phyllis, and I don't know who else. And I may not have seen you because I often had my head down to avoid questioning by Dr. K. Why didn't I realize I could have asked my cousin Barb Smith Rose or my future sister-in-law Ruth Hamilton Jones for some help? By the way, they both became math teachers at Roberts. I think we heard a lot about education for character, and somebody in our class, I think, changed that to education for characters. Just a side note, my daughter benefited from Judd Decker's tutelage through 2001, and I just wondered if we could find out who else in our class sent one or more of their children to Roberts Wesleyan, or their children chose to come to Roberts Wesleyan. Wow, I think that's A good percentage. Great, great. Think of it. Ora and Martha in the new library were almost 20 years younger than we are today. Sports filled an important role on campus. Fall found most of us as sideline enthusiasts for our soccer squad, including Gary and Richie. Even without our own gym, we were avid basketball fans, cheering along with Marcia, Ann, Linda, Connie, Kathy, Judy, for our favorite Raiders, Paul, Dave, Richie, Darwin, Ken, and I don't know if I missed anybody. Harry Anderson led the band of runners honored today. Ken and Tim and Gary stayed true to the course. Oh, that was all pre-Title IX. Our women's intramural basketball was pretty impressive, with Kennelyn, Evelyn, Judy, and Jeannie, half court and in the pit. I said there were a few of us who came in on games now and then, but we weren't nearly as exciting as those ladies I mentioned. I'm sure I didn't always know the extent of surprising activities of our class because of my dad, Woody Valler's position, and my focus on Dave. Sometimes conversations just plain stopped when we were around. The national and international challenges during our college years pierced our bubble of existence. MLK's assassination, Bobby Kennedy's assassination, the Civil Rights Movement, and the Vietnam War. I remember well being in charge of the teach-in debate for cultural life, negotiating the views of the Doves and Hawks. Classical concerts fulfilled some students, but others loved the folk music of Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Bob Dylan gave way to Beatles, Beach Boys, and the Mamas and the Papas. In addition to building great floats at Lehman's house and winning first place twice and second place twice, we may have become well known for our pranks. The cow and straw in the dorm, the hearse for Betty Jones, the tires over the flagpole, the silverware, the X-Lax brownies, and Volkswagens in the church. I won't take time to take a survey right now for more pranks, but each of you are thinking of some. I heard of some today. But the people, friends, professors, Paul Harvey, E. Stanley Jones, Harry Denman, Joe Blinko, Dennis Kinlaw, Jimmy Dorado, and countless other mentors impacted the directions and decisions we made then, and some have continued to influence at least 2 more generations since then. We graduated and became musicians, nurses, teachers, coaches, preachers, business people, lawyers, and engineers. A phase of our work is done, yet many of us continue our journeys to fulfill God's purposes. You've heard the saying, the days are long, but the years are short. It's been 50 short years, and we're here to celebrate each other and Roberts Wesleyan College.
Our next speaker is our class president, Brad Smith.
Before I begin, I have a ticket for the concert tonight, which I don't need. If there's anyone who would like a free ticket, see me following our session tonight. I'd be glad to give that to you. Carolee and I have not colluded in the preparation of our comments, but there will be some familiar echoes, interestingly enough. I've entitled these reflections, Every Time You Come Around. First, I want to say congratulations to you, the class of 1969, and spouses and guests. This is special. It is special to me. I'm sure it's special to you. This reconnection is a reconnection of major pieces of our lives which continue to feed into who we are today. I don't know about you, but when I was at my first homecoming, I remember seeing those 50-year reunion people gathering together, and I was sure that most of them were carried in on stretchers. But I have to say, you look good. The class of 1969 still has class. But I can't believe it's been 50 years, half a century. We've all been through some amazing experiences, and I suspect have many different stories in our journeys to tell. And tomorrow I look forward to hearing as many of those stories from you as I possibly can. Wouldn't it be great to hire Ken Burns to do an interview and documentary of all the things that have happened in your life in the last 50 years, and to boil that down and summarize the impact in the lives of people and institutions and movements? We are a hinged generation. Most of our grandparents were born in the 1800s. They remember home life before cars, electricity, indoor plumbing. Our parents lived through the Great Depression and World War II. My grandmother traveled to western Kansas in a covered wagon as a small child. Talked about the Indians that would come by the back of their homestead farm along the creek, drawing travisses behind their horses in the spring. In contrast, one of my sons was a stealth fighter pilot flying into subspace. I can't quite get my brain around this range of change. Our generation is somewhere in the middle of that incredible era. We were growing up in the 60s, the decade of the most radical social shifts in our national history. The music went from the golden oldies to acid rock someplace along the line. Elvis, the Supremes, the Motown sound, the Beatles, the assassination of John Kennedy, the Vietnam War, protests. I remember I was working for a Young Life campaign after graduation in Washington, D.C., and our office there was one floor above the SDS national headquarters. And I had some interesting elevator rides. The Jesus People movement emerged in this time. The rejection of traditional core values, the drug culture, and just as the first human beings walked on the moon, you walked into the adult world as RWC graduates. Recently, I've been reflecting on our decades since then, using the metaphor of a spiral curriculum. In educational design, our learning process was presented in an ascending spiral, beginning with basic things. But every time we'd come around on that spiral, we might come back to the same subject areas, but with greater depth and breadth and more meaning. And our task was to integrate that into our knowledge each time as we matured. And every time we would come around that full revolution, we would find that something had happened. Something in our journey had moved us. It continued through these 50 years. Every time you come around in your own spiral, you are the same, but not exactly the same. Life experiences change us continually, like the thaw of a frozen river. Moving ice carves away old banks, piling up new barriers, redirecting currents, sculpting deep holes or building sandbars. Though still the same river, it dynamically changes year by year. And so, like a thawing river, every time you come around, you are the same, yet not exactly the same. You have changed in some way through personal experiences, exposures to new perspectives, increased responsibilities, expanded self-understanding, tensions between doing and being, the outer life and the inner life. Through these trips around the spiral, we become aware of the need to let go of some things, and we need to commit to some new things. Some things naturally lose their importance and fall away from us like autumn leaves, and others grow deeper roots like a maturing tree. The Apostle Paul described his own changes in perspectives this way. We heard it from Paul Morose this morning. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought as a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. He goes on to say, now I know in part. And I would insert in the translation to be assumed, but in the future, I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. 1 Corinthians 13. We think of it as the love chapter. Many times we forget it's so developmentally oriented. In this season of life when most of our years are now behind us, let's face it, we can more easily see that life is not about stuff. Our values shift higher. It's been said, things worth being are better than things worth having. We look toward simplifying. We look toward downsizing and letting go of all kinds of things we used to think were so important that we had to have. Have you ever tried to sell an old trophy at a yard sale? We realize our relationships are our treasures, and our spirit is the legacy that we will truly pass on to our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren, and closest friends. We give ourselves to giving ourselves. When the hearse pulls away, it won't be towing a U-Haul. If we had judged this well and timed things right, we will have let go of everything except the hand of the Good Shepherd. We have an apartment in our house, and some time ago we were taking care of my elderly Aunt Lucille, who was in the early stages of dementia. A dear lady, very quiet, very shy, but she just liked to be with us. Well, one day in late morning, my wife was finishing something in the kitchen and turned around to find herself face to face with Aunt Lucille, virtually nose to nose. She moved as quiet as a mouse. Surprised but not shocked, my wife gently suggested to Lucille, after all, this was mid-morning now, that it was time for her to go to her apartment. Lucille thought about that for a second or two. And then she said, but what if, when I get there, I find out I'm already there? It made sense to her. We've laughed about it ever since. But the reality is, every time we come around our spiral, we meet ourselves. Maybe Aunt Lucille was not so much a victim of dementia, but rather a clairvoyant. In our senior years, we can encounter ourselves with new honesty, new insight, new humility, and a deeper grasp of the personal meaning of mercy and grace. I can't remember who it was, but I was so impressed with what I heard defining these two words and their differences. And that was, mercy is not getting the consequences of something we deserve. That's mercy. Grace is getting the gift of something we do not deserve and earn. Not getting and getting.
How many Baptists in here would say amen?
The realities of both of those things, I suspect, punctuate many of your stories as you reflect back over these 50 years. They strengthen our faith in the relentlessness of God, who never gives up on us.
Amen.
Every time we come around, we become either a better self or a bitter self. In this season of life, our soul reviews the reruns of our choices, those selfless and those self-destructive. We see more clearly both the fruits and the consequences of our decisions down through the decades in a different perspective. If we're honest with ourselves, we process those insights into the capacities for humility, understanding, and the power of compassion. What a great season of life this is. What a great privilege to reflect and see and understand and integrate. We might even see how some of the great good has come out of our own personal disasters and challenges. This irony did not escape the Apostle Paul when he wrote, "Moreover, we know that those who love God and are called according to his plan, everything that happens fits into a pattern for the good." We look back to some of the persons we first encountered during our student years at Roberts, and can now, from a different perspective, more fully appreciate the impact their influence has had on our lives over these years. They were perhaps different people for each of us, but they left a powerful signature upon our development. Carol Lee reminded us of many. And yes, we did not collaborate, so some of these names sound familiar. For me, they were Stan McGill and Harry Anderson, President Voller and Dave Rogers and Alvin Ahern and Judd Decker, and I even said George Moby Dick Klein, who I later had the privilege of being a teaching colleague of at Spring Arbor University. Elsa Logan, Dale Shepfer, and others, as well as special speakers like Jimmy Dorado, E. Stanley Jones, Bishop Fulton Sheen. Along the way, our encounters with one another in this tumbler of learning and development knocked off some rough edges of childhood, stretched us toward new directions of adulthood and commitment and personal values and what it means to be a part of a social community, regardless of how large or small that might be. Some friendships were a brief crossing of a path. Others endured for a season of life, while a few have perhaps matured with us ever since, and we are grateful for them all. As we approach the top of the spiral of our life, we realize that we are made for more. Health issues remind us that we are designed to wear out. How many are on track? Great careers and accomplishments become forgotten by new generations that do not know your name. Our trophies, as I mentioned, may be given away or end up in the dumpster as we downsize. Every time we come around, in this season of life, it is less about stuff and more about what's next. The things worth being are better than things worth having. I thank God in fresh appreciation for you, my fellow class travelers in the RWC chapter of my life, for leaders and teachers who inspired us, imparting little time bombs of influence that explode later in life in critical moments when we need it. I particularly recall a chapel service here at Roberts when Dr. E. Stanley Jones made a simple statement that absolutely stuck in my soul and have echoed in my mind ever since. And he said this: God loves you just the way you are, but too much to leave you that way. And isn't that the joy of this journey? God does something good every time you come around. God bless you.
Thank you for those words. They're important. We're going to give you the results of the survey. The survey that you took was from 40 of you. Not everyone took the survey, but we will do that now. And I'm going to put it up on the board, if I'm doing this correctly.
I'll just use the arrow on the keyboard. On the keyboard.
On the keyboard.
The keyboard.
Oh, the keyboard. That keyboard.
Yeah, that keyboard. It's right there on the drawer.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
The arrow on the keyboard, okay. Let's see.
It's just on the right.
Right there. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
To the side. Yeah, okay. This is what we did over the last 50 years. Actually, that's not the right one. There. Those are what we did. Now, that is only representative of 40 surveys, and that jumped again. I'm sorry about this.
Did it move on its own?
Hope it's going to
If it does
stay.
it again, then I will.
Oh, it did.
Oh wait! Look at that. Here, I know what's going on.
Okay.
I'm not sure why I left my glasses over there. I can't see anything. All right, bear with us just a second. Okay. I'm giving away the ending here, so don't look. That should be okay there. Sorry about that.
Okay. As I said, this is what we did. I guess it's meant to be. Anyhow, this of 35% of the survey respondents.
You gotta talk faster.
Okay.
You gotta unclick the advance on after 6 seconds. Yeah, and then go to do that for the rest of the time.
There we go.
Yeah, that one's fine. And that one's pretty good.
That's what happens when you combine. Try to combine it and make it easier. There you go.
Okay, all right.
That's not Paul's fault.
All right, as I said, okay, we had, of the respondents, we found that most of us did the type of jobs we wanted. Now, many of us went on to do other things as well. You can see that there's quite a variety there. There were 5 people in the service. One retired as a commander in the U.S. Coast Guard, and you can look at that. And let's see. Let's go on to the awards here, if I can hit this. And
If you want it, you won't get it.
Just the arrow button.
okay, this I think is impressive. The fact that, to say the least, that about 35% or 14 out of 40 classmates were professionally recognized in some way for outstanding service. And you can see here that we had 2 teachers of the year. One was honored as Business Employee of the Year. One was honored as Automotive Industry Man of the Year. 4 were inducted to the Roberts Wesleyan Hall of Fame. Now I know there are more than that, but these are only of the survey people. All right. One was RE/MAX Hall of Fame Award winner. One was elected to the National Teachers Education Organization. One received the National Weather Service Public Service Award. One was Miss Hope, 1970, Oswego Cancer Society. And 2 have published professional papers. Now, of that, in terms of education, after graduating Roberts, 22 people out of 40 classmates went on to advanced degrees. 19 people obtained master's degrees, and 3 that we know of from the survey went on to get PhDs. And so this represents about 55% of the sample that went on to higher education. Okay. No, that's not what should be there, but anyhow, let's, this is what you responded as in terms of giving out what you do in leisure time. And you can see this is what you tend to do. 14% still have part-time jobs. 32% are involved in non-church community service work. 51% survey response indicated that travel was their leisure activity. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the church responsibility. The survey indicates 3 of our classmates were pastors. I know that there are more, and 2 have been chaplains. 14 denominations are represented in the survey. Free Methodist, Baptist, and non-denominational were ranked most frequently. When asked about the Christian walk, the responses included: I help facilitate the spiritual and emotional development of new Christians. I help facilitate decisions for Christ. I believe God's call on my life is to be spiritual father to as many as I can help. I try to be help and Christian witness to all I meet. Okay, most are deeply involved in the charitable organizations that are too numerous to mention. And also, 81% of the classmates reported that some form of church work is a common occurrence on in their weekly schedule. Okay. Now we get on to leisure activities, as we indicated. I want to talk a little bit about what the family category said. Out of the 40 surveys indicated, 77 children were reported born to our group, producing 155 grandchildren, 16 great-grandchildren. 5 of our classmates have been married for 50 years. from the survey. 2 have been married 52 years and 2 51 years. And the rest of us are a little bit below that.
Oh, we're 62 years.
You're 62 years? Did you turn in a survey?
57 over here.
57. Well, that's what surveys do for you. They're always wrong. I want to say something here also. The survey indicates that one classmate has visited 83 countries and one has golfed in all 50 states. One individual has been on all the continents except Antarctica. I don't know who'd want to go to Antarctica, but it's a great place for penguins, I guess. One classmate reported raising 7 children, 18 grandchildren, and 11 great-grandchildren. He further reported that he was a state-certified and licensed sex addiction therapist. And he, so, we're all busy. Also, it appears from our survey results that sometimes being married this long may lead to a bit of confusion for some couples. One class couple disagreed on the number of great-grandchildren they expected at Christmas dinner. I hope that this has been informative. I'm sorry for the technology, but that's what the survey indicated. Now, what we'd like to do is we're going to break up here in a few minutes. We're going to save the majority of the time for your presentations to the group for tomorrow night, because I think just about everybody here is coming to our place tomorrow night. And we will do that then. But I think what we can do is to break out into little discussion groups and talk and just get reacquainted with each other and do what we need to do. Committee, is there anything else we need to do?
Do you want to show them
The video? No, it's gone.
the video? It's there. It's still there if you want.
Okay, let's.
Well, it's up to you.
You want to come up and touch it?
Yeah.
So this is a campus as it was, probably pretty close to when you guys were here. And Paul had asked if we had any drone footage so that you could see a little bit about what it looks like now. So this is raw drone footage, about 3 minutes worth. There's no sound. But this will give you a chance to see from the air just how different campus is. And you can see the new Crothers Science and Nursing Center there in front of, because now the front side is the back side.
This is what we used to be able to. We
If you have
dreamed
vertigo.
about this. We dreamed about this a long time ago.
Hopefully you don't have vertigo, because this thing spins a bit. So you're looking back toward Carpenter Hall with Crothers, the Crothers clock there, and then Cox Hall. This was probably taken a couple years ago now, so there's been changes since then. See Pierce in the distance there, Cultural Life Center. And we're going to go right over the spot where Mercero was, and you'll actually be able to see the outline of the building a little bit right there. You can kind of see there where the front was, and that's been gone since 2010. So you got Rinker, athletic fields, Spin, Galsano, the library, the old library, which is Hastings, and business and teacher ed right now. So if you haven't been in there, you should check it out. It looks really nice. And again, there's Mercero Green. You can actually see the indentation of the building when you walk around tomorrow. Cox always looks good. And they renovated the outside of that building a few years ago, and it's completely new material except for the base where they have the stone. So it looks really new. You can put a new weather vane on it. So, all the roads that were there were taken out in the 80s. Through the center of campus, and then the north part of campus we don't see here, but there's some new residence halls up there, and the new Golisano right across the street. Hey, leave it on. That's good. So, and there's the president's home just off screen. On College Green is that the land that we owned across Buffalo Road there. Has been developed into a retirement homes, essentially, a number of different things. And that's the pond, which was dug out to level out where the track and stadium went. So that's actually about 40 feet deep. So they took a lot of dirt out of there to create the stadium and the track. So, and that's about it.
Great. Thank you. I think we can all. This is just what we could only dream about, something like this. I remember what we had in the dormitories, what we had in the food category. And it's wonderful. And Roberts has won a lot of different awards for the different things they present to students. And the students, if they came back 50 years prior, I don't know how they would view it, but we have the experience of living through it, and it's important because we've seen progress, and they just expect it, you know. But anyhow, I know that those of you who want to get over to the concert need to leave, but we will, for all of you, tomorrow night we will listen to all of your presentations. And I'm sorry that we ran out of time, but we need to follow the college schedule, and we will see you then. 4:30 to 7:30 at our place. It's about 11 miles away, and we're looking forward to seeing you.
Hey, does anybody remember when we built the new Kenneth B. Keating Library, and we had to carry the books in Carpenter Hall as a chain, all by hand, the students did, to put the books in the new library? Because I remember doing that.
It was called Hobo, help our books over.
Was that what it was called?
Yeah, Hobo.
Yeah, they used the students to bring all the new books to the Kenneth B. Keating Memorial Library.
Okay. We will see you, and feel free to stay as long as you want. Yes, Brad?
Just a reminder, if someone's looking for a concert ticket, I've got one for you, so see me immediately if you need to.
Okay.
Pleasure.